Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sean.
And this is
Nerd to Nerd.
And now for this week's movie of the week.
We're going to be talking about Disney's Cruella.
And this week's movie of the week is Disney's Cruella. What'd you think, Sean?
I was actually very impressed. I thought Emma Stone did a fantastic job. I wasn't sure that she was going to be able to pull it off in the capacity that she did, but she did an excellent job, and I wouldn't be surprised if she actually was up for an award possibly in like a year or so.
Yeah, true, man.
It was very good. What did you think?
I honestly was pretty impressed.
I was too.
You know, obviously the only thing I knew about Cruella in the past has been the cartoon movies.
Yeah.
101 Dalmatians, and this was a really good, realistic take on the character of Cruella. And yeah, I think Emma Stone did really well also.
Yeah, she did a fantastic. I don't mean to keep
surprised.
saying it, but she really did a fantastic job going back and forth between her characters, and amazing.
Yeah, we'll get to the alter ego in a little while, but why don't we start with her childhood in the film?
I loved the fact that we were able to see Stella before we got to see Cruella, and where she came from exactly and what she was all about. Not just, like you were saying before, the lady after the dogs. It was more to it than that, and what made her. And we got to see a really good opportunity of like what made Stella Cruella, and I loved it.
I liked the part where we saw her in school, and she was a troublemaker, and she was literally in the principal's office all the time.
Yeah,
every day, and she was getting a stamp or a demerit, I guess you would call it. And
really cool scene between her mother and the principal.
Yeah, the mother was trying to have her tone down a little and be, a good,
a good
little
kid.
girl.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's not what she was.
No,
she
was wild.
She was causing havoc since she was a kid.
Yeah. Which brings us to the traumatic event that this character experienced.
Yeah, super traumatic. And I'd like to say, like, we'll touch on it later on in the video, but it really did suck that you had to see the dogs be the villain the entire movie to Cruella. Well, for a good majority of it, and it really wasn't. And that she found out the truth later on. But I can't imagine having to see your own mom die the way that she did. And having years to feel like it was your fault and having nobody to go to.
Yeah, it's sad.
It is sad.
And it's interesting how, when we were that young, we wouldn't understand the full aspect of everything. And now, being older now, I have nephews and such. Like, things like this in movies hit me differently now. And
it puts it into a different perspective.
It definitely, and it just hit me emotionally.
Yeah.
I felt really bad for this character.
You think about what if that was one of your family members in those in that person's shoes and going through that, and there's nothing that you could do to help them.
Yeah.
Which all adds to the craziness of why she becomes who she is. And like we said, it was super cool to actually see her turn into Cruella, not just from a villain standpoint.
Yeah, we see a step-by-step
Yeah.
of her transformation, which was really cool. So at this point in the movie, we see the mother pass, and she runs away, and she comes into contact with these two kids who wind up being her friends.
Yeah.
One of them is Joel Fry.
Jasper,
who's played by Joel Fry. And the other one is Paul Hauser, and he plays
Horace.
Horace.
My favorite character. I loved him in this movie. For me personally, he put the movie from good to great. The supporting cast around Emma Stone was amazing. Seeing how they were always there for Stella from the beginning, and she really had nobody. She was on the street. They found her at that fountain when she just ran away from her mom dying in front of her. So she had nobody. She had the dog. That was it. And these random kids had it all put together. They had their own place. They had their own system of stealing things.
How did that work? How'd they pay the rent?
Yeah,
just had
I
their
don't know.
own
I think it
apartment?
was just an abandoned hotel room or a warehouse somewhere, and I guess that's just how things were back in the day. So
Yeah.
I guess it didn't matter. Whatever. They had a place. They had their own thing set up, and they welcomed her. And I forget who it was. It was Jasper or Horace. One of them was hesitant. I think it was.
I think it was Jasper.
No, I think Jasper wanted her, and Horace didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure. And they didn't want her, but it was cool how they took her in. And these are just kids. These are just
Horace is the loving one. That's why I think it was Jasper.
It
But
might have been. It's
either-
hard to say because the majority of the movie we're looking at them from the adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that they took her in and
Yeah,
they
either way
stuck
they took
together
her
as a
in.
family.
Yeah, they
and-
became a family. They both essentially became her brothers.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
They had nobody else either.
Yeah.
As soon as she said, "I just lost my mom," they took her
the
in right
tone
away.
the tone
Yeah.
changed.
Big time.
All right.
really,
So
really neat.
which we really have to talk about these dogs.
We sure do.
This video is sponsored by the Philadelphia Connection, where they bring the action to you. This is a great place for all your autograph needs of your favorite stars. Please visit thephiladelphiaconnection.com for a list of upcoming signings and for any in-stock purchases of your treasured entertainment and sports heroes.
And what I found was really interesting about the dogs was Stella actually liked the dogs, and not just Stella liked the dogs. Cruella loved the dogs and used the dogs in order to get the Baroness's necklace. She was actually using them in her story to kind of be like a weapon for her, not against her. What did you think about the pups?
It was cool because first of all, there was only 3,
Yeah.
not 101.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious where the other 98 are.
Yeah.
But you also have to take in the fact that they were also controlled by the whistle
Yes.
that the Baroness used. So they were like trained to kill, I guess you can say.
Yep.
And when the dogs were with Estella and Cruella
Mm-hmm.
and the 2 friends, you saw that the dogs got accustomed to them.
Yeah.
And then, later on in the movie, you do see them listen to
Yeah.
Stella, but it was cool to see, and it was a nice different take than the cartoon movies.
Yeah, it was an interesting take, definite. It was really nice to see that they kept the dogs in the movie throughout without you really knowing. They always used the dogs in the scenes and stuff like that in nifty little ways. But to your point with the whistling, the dogs for probably, 3/4 of the movie were the villains, and then she realized that they really weren't, and she came to love them. And now it looks like they're probably going to be a part of her life forever.
Probably. And again, they weren't the focus of the movie.
No,
Like the
they were
cartoons.
there. They were there enough. It wasn't like they weren't there, because you got to remember the '90s movies. You don't want to forget about them.
Oh, definitely.
They were there just enough. And
They're
they
kids. They're kids' movies.
yeah, definitely.
Could you imagine a real life adult version of this and the girl? Oh, I'm gonna get you Dalmatians.
No, you can't. It's impossible.
You know.
Yeah, you can't. Especially 101 of them.
100. Could you imagine 101 of those dogs chasing you from the whistle?
Yeah, you're done. Goodbye.
Really done. So let's talk about Estella and Cruella. And when she started changing into Cruella, Estella was this sad, hurting girl who lost her mom, and she always took the blame for herself.
Yep.
But Cruella was this confident, strong, female character.
It makes you wonder if people have that inside of them all along and they just never tap into it. Her inner person that was inside that awoken when she found out that the Baroness killed her mom and it wasn't the Dalmatians, she totally snapped. She completely forgot about everything in her past.
Even her friends.
Everything. Yeah, Jasper and Horace didn't matter. She turned into a monster in other ways, but not the terrible monster that we're used to. She was just trying to get back at the Baroness.
Yeah,
in
her
a
mind was
sneaky way.
focused on that.
Yes.
So
I loved it. It was great. it did really seem like it was two different actresses.
Yeah, for real. For real. Like, as Cruella, she didn't have to be the scared little girl anymore.
Nope.
You
Yeah,
know?
no. I think renaming herself kind of put that old person to...
It was like a fresh start.
Yeah, she buried the old person and started anew. She was born again. It was fantastic, to say the least. She did a great job. And like I said, I wonder if there is an inner person in everybody that sometimes deal with something that sometimes they could just snap and
Yeah, I think for the most part there is. I think there is that inner,
for sure.
People.
For sure, there has to be.
One more thing about Estella, which I thought was cool. She was struggling. She was doing a porter job at the department store.
Yeah.
And eventually she wound up becoming an employee of the Baroness.
Yes.
And you could see the skill that she had with fashion.
The talent was outrageous right away, automatically. You could tell something was up.
It was at that moment where there were like little hints at like, oh, she's really good at this. The Baroness, who was, the character, a horrible woman.
Right.
And, had several employees making dress outfits, and she took the design and said it was hers. But she saw something in Estella.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it right away because I was just so glued to the movie. I thought it was so great. I didn't really realize all of the little Easter eggs throughout the movie that kind of hinted what was going on. Mm-hmm. I guess that's my fault. I'm such a fan. But, it was kind of messed up that she just kind of took credit for everything. They did a really good job at showing how bad the Baroness was, not just as a person, but as a boss. And it also shined a light to me on Cruella, Stella, on how good she was and how talented she was.
Yeah, the cast, really worked well together.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Baroness, who's played by Emma Thompson, she killed it. She was really great as that cold-hearted character.
There
and,
wasn't
villain,
Yeah.
Like, we're so used to seeing Cruella being labeled the villain that it was refreshing to see somebody else be labeled that in the story of Cruella.
There was not one bad acting job throughout this entire movie. Not one. The entire movie was casted perfect, and you're right. She did such a good job at being a villain that took the spotlight off of, the villain that we grew up with. It's just weird, I keep saying it, but it's just so weird to me to see a movie with her as the good guy saving everybody, and the Baroness. She crushed it, man. She really did an excellent job throughout the entire movie. And the little weird with her butler and the lawyer and taking the 9-minute nap was pretty cool. Kind of showed exactly how much of a diva she was. I thought that added to the story really well.
And how much they feared her.
Yeah,
every time she walked in a room, they jumped. And,
if she didn't like your dress, crap, fired, crap.
Yeah,
she was ruthless.
Yeah, literally.
Seriously ruthless. But we should have known something was coming with Stella because she was the only one who had always a nice dress or it was something close to what the Baroness wanted.
The Baroness wanted.
Yeah.
And which brings us to the twist of this movie. The mom that we knew from earlier in the movie died, and it turns out that John the valet, played by Mark Strong, in a sense was a protector of hers.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out that the mom was an employee of the Baroness and wasn't actually her birth mom.
The lady who we thought to be Cruella's mom was a butler to the Baroness, and the Baroness didn't want Stella at all. So she completely gave up her beautifully born daughter for absolutely no reason, and the only one that knew was John.
And she told John to get rid of it.
Yeah, and thank God for John. John was the only one who knew, than
John had a heart.
Yeah, and he kept it from her all this time. I can't imagine how hard it probably would have been for him to not slip. Hey, your daughter's out there still somewhere,
Well, he kept it from her from that moment because that's when the mom went to her and asked for money.
Yes,
and that's when we found out that it was the Baroness that used the whistle and
yes,
how the mom died.
Yeah, which was interesting too. It was terrible that they made us think that it was the dogs the entire movie, and then you see her pointing to him. It was a big twist. Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he saved her. He saved her from the fire. He explained everything to her with
we
the
thought she was
locket.
going to die, and then she was saved.
I thought the movie was over. I thought, bam, now we got to wait for a second one or something silly like that. But that's not how it was. And he gave her all of her life secrets, which was a really cool part of the movie.
Yeah, really cool. Really cool. Now, the thing that was kind of cool, I mean, you know, like when every time the Baroness had like a show or something, Cruella would crash the party.
Always.
And some of them were so funny. One was a garbage truck.
Yeah, and I think her dress was made of garbage bags or trash material.
It looked like it was a big pile of trash, and then the truck drove away.
Yeah.
And it was just the dress was huge.
Yeah,
it was
probably like 30, 40 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then another one was with another show.
Very
She would show up
creative.
with a rock. It was a rock concert.
Yeah,
It was
cool.
really, really cool.
Makes you think, where'd she get all this stuff?
Yeah, where'd she get all this money? Just like the apartment that they grew up in.
Yeah.
Right?
Seemed pretty cozy.
Right? So, how would you rate this film?
I know last week I said 10 out of 10, 2 thumbs up, but to be honest, I didn't see anything wrong with this movie at all. I thought it was awesome. If I were to tell you it wasn't a 10 out of 10, I'd kind of be doing it just because last week I said it was a 10 out of 10. So,
Right on.
10 out of 10. There wasn't any bad acting. There wasn't any bad dialogue. I mean, the plot was awesome. I felt like it was a mystery the entire movie. I personally couldn't pick out where it was going, what was going to happen. It didn't feel like it dragged out. I loved it.
Yeah.
Great
Cool,
movie.
man.
Great movie.
Yeah, I mean, I myself, I'm not really a hard critic with things, but
Me
I tend
either.
to not give 10 out of 10, but
It's hard too.
it's hard not to. I really liked the realistic tone to the story and the changes that they made. You know, obviously they're not going to do the same because it was a kids movie, but
right, yeah, of
I
course.
really like what they did, and it was a fresh, take on this story. So I'm gonna have to give it a 10 out of 10 as well.
Yeah, really good clean slate.
Disney's Cruella is in movie theaters and on Disney Plus.
Yes.
Check it out.